Today is part 4 of reconditioning the 1973 men's Schwinn Collegiate 5-speed bicycle. And here's another task that I hate doing. It's regreasing and cleaning out rear axle bearings. I'd like to get all that dirty work done before I clean the rims and clean the chrome. So yeah, that's what I'm doing today. And the tools I'll be needing is a screwdriver, a parts can, some rags, some toothbrushes, a wrench, grease, and mineral spirits in a bottle. So yeah, the first thing we got to do is take the nuts off the wheel, the axle. And here's a washer, two washers. Dump them in the parts bucket, and we'll remove the other axle nut. Next thing we've got to do is loosen one of the axle nuts. There's one right there, and then there's one behind it. And yeah, and then we got to remove that back one and withdraw the axle and put it on the ground. And make sure you got the parts set up so that way when you throw it back together, it'll go back the way it was. So yeah. And the next step is to remove the bearings. Make sure you got that parts bucket handy, and make sure you don't lose any bearings. And what I like to do is just lay the rim on its side and just like take your screwdriver and just take the bearings and just dump them down the axle hole so they'll come out the other side. You may have to tap it a few times. Got one right there. I can make it that. One axle bearing right there. Yeah. And make sure you count all these. You take these, you put them in your parts bucket right here. All your bearings. Make sure you count them. So that way when you reassemble it, all of them are there. Do the same to the other side. Just shove them down the axle hole with the screwdriver. And take your mineral spirits in a can. You loosen the can. Got a little technical difficulty here. And leave those bearings soak to get the grease out of them. And again, make sure you count those bearings to make sure they're all there before you reassemble the unit. So now all the axle bearings have been removed. There's 18 in all. They're soaking in the parts can. And the next step is to clean the races on each side of the hub. So yeah, we'll take some mineral spirits in a bottle and spray it. Take your toothbrush and just work it around. Clean it all up. I noticed that on this rim it had a loose spoke, but that's alright. These Schwinn rims, they stay pretty straight usually. I never have any problems with them. Mostly the other brands I do have problems with rims being crooked after a spoke is not tightened, so yeah, just clean her out. Then clean your axle too. Just spray it and just let it soak. Then take your toothbrush and just clean it all up like that. Spray the other side of the race. Take a toothbrush and just clean the inside out. From experience on the older Schwinns, regreasing the axle bearings makes it ride much better, along with regreasing the crank bearings too. Man, I don't know why that church is ringing its bells. That church ain't even used anymore, it's vacant. Yep. Get a little bit more clean. Then take your rag and wipe the surface dry inside. On each side. The bearing races have been cleaned, the axle's been cleaned, and the bearings are soaking. So let's do some greasing now. We're gonna be using marine waterproof grease. And you take a dab of it and you just cake the inside of the race with it. Like that. You just go all the way around the race. Take your finger and just spread it around. If you get a lot in there, that's good. So that way when you put the bearings back, the bearings won't jump out, they'll stay put. So yeah. You do both sides. And you take one bearing each and just shove them back into the race like this. And go all the way around. You just shove them into the race like this. You just put your finger down and make sure they're on the race like that. Considering there's 18 bearings, there's 9 per side, so make sure you got the correct amount of bearings. Don't lose these. Okay. You go all the way around. It's good to add a little grease too to make them stay put. So. And you do both sides. Bearings are in. Time for reassembly. Since the other end of the axle, the nuts came off, this end goes in first, like this end. Put it inside the axle, the hub, put it in place. Take your screws, and you screw it together. The nuts are attached to the axle. The axle's tight. Let's test her out. Perfect. Spins freely. There's no play in the axle. which is great because you don't want any play in your wheels. So, yep, she's all done. Perfect. And that concludes this video, and I sure hope you enjoyed it. Bye.